Hello, thanks for clicking this video. My name is James, and I've been a semi-professional or struggling professional musician for more than 20 years, and I've acquired a few funny stories in that time, and I figure if they make me laugh, they might make someone else laugh too, so I want to share them. Now, these are not tales of rock and roll debauchery, so if you're looking for that, go look up Motley Crue or some similar group. But if you're a singer-songwriter or soloist or just general working musician like I've been, you'll probably get a laugh out of these. So here we go. Story one. So a few years after graduating from Berkeley, I'm still living in Boston, and I would regularly check their online job postings for any gigs. One day I responded to one of a recording session needs a keyboard player, and I didn't think anything of it. I figured it's another gig I won't hear back about. But this guy called me within the hour, and I was real excited and grateful that I had responded to his ad and was asking when I could get started. And he was so enthusiastic and excited that he got me excited. And I neglected to ask probing questions about exactly what the job was and more importantly, what it paid. I was just thinking, oh, great, I just got a gig. That was easy. So he wanted to see me as soon as possible. I had to work. I said, when I get off of teaching, I can come. So that's what I did. After teaching that day, I drove to the address he gave me. And remember, I got there around 8 o'clock. And to my surprise, it wasn't a recording studio, and there was no band or there was no artist. It was just this guy in his apartment with his very minimal home recording setup. But I figure, all right, well, we'll see how it goes. So I start setting up, and we're having small talk. And I remember he tells me he records on Logic. But he didn't have Logic that day. He was using Pro Tools. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I don't really need to know any of this. I'm just here to play the keyboards. Anyway, we get started, and it became obvious very quickly. He didn't really know anything about music, and he had the chords to Pachelbel's Canon in D, and any of you who've played weddings know that song. And actually, even if you've never played a wedding, you've probably heard the Canon in D. It's a very famous progression of chords. So he had those chords. I don't remember how he got them because he couldn't play them, but he had those chords sort of like semi-recorded, but they were up a step in E flat, so it was Canon and E flat. So anyway, I picked that out pretty quickly, and then he'd written lyrics over them, and then he was directing me to play certain things and make different sounds. But as we went on, it became obvious he also really didn't know much about the recording process either. He didn't really know how to use his own software. And at the time, I had a really basic understanding of Pro Tools. I just started messing around with it. So I started interjecting myself in that process, and then after a while I was just doing all of it, and he would be in the chair directing me, and he actually commented after a while, like, whoa man, you're doing everything, like you're the producer and the arranger, the engineer, and the keyboard player. And I'm thinking, yeah, how that happened? So we go on like this for about 5 hours, and around 1 o'clock in the morning we finally wrap up, and we're tired and think, okay, well we got something done. We got this thing pretty much done, not finished but pretty done. So I go to close it down and trying to save it, and it won't save. Doing all the functions, Control S, file save, all the things you do to save the file, and for some reason it's not saving. And I'm thinking, well, this is weird. So finally I say, okay, let me shut it down, and when you go to close it, the little window pops up, and you're sure you want to shut down your session without saving? And then you save it. Okay, so I do that, but the window doesn't pop up, it just closes. And blank screen. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? That's not supposed to happen. So I open the session back up, and it's gone. Everything's gone. And I'm like, I'm freaking out, and he's kind of freaking out, like, what just happened? Why'd that happen? What's going on? And after a few minutes, we figure out that the version of Pro Tools he was using was a free demo version he downloaded that had no save function. We could never have saved anything. So the whole evening had been a waste. And that was pretty deflating. And then I don't remember, he didn't pay me anything that night, and I don't remember putting up much of a fight. I think I was just tired and deflated. Anyway, he called me a few days later and wanted me to come back and try again. And I said, well, you never pay me for that. And we had a whole back and forth. And I was like, look, here's my address, mail me a check. And when I get it, we'll talk. And which, of course, he never paid me. So anyway, I just swallowed that as a lesson learned. And now funny story for you to hear. So, all right, that's one. Okay, so story number 2. Jump forward a few years. I'm living in Central California, trying to become a singer-songwriter and solo artist around Monterey, which is a beautiful city in Central California. You should definitely visit. But it's not a happening place for live music or any kind of nightlife. It's where people go to have quiet, peaceful vacations in a small town or retire in peace. So I learned quickly were not many places to perform. And there just wasn't much of a scene there. One of the few places that did have live music was this little coffee shop called the East Village Coffee Lounge, if I remember, and shout out to that place if they're still around. I hope they're doing well. So they would occasionally let me play there. The staff were very nice, and so one night I had a gig there, and it was supposed to be, I think, 3 hours, at least 2. Like I was the featured musical entertainment that night. So I got there, set up, and whatever was happening was kind of winding down, and there's people milling about, and I'm setting up. But this place was interesting. So any of you who've done coffee shop gigs, you're often the background music for people doing their coffee thing, and you're not really the center of attention necessarily, but people are casually listening, and you can get paid decent and make some tips. Well, this place, the stage was actually in a separate room from the coffee shop, because it was an active listening venue. They really push live music, which was great, but it meant that people who want to hear you have to really want to hear you. They're committed. So I start playing, and the crowd's gradually thing out from whatever was going on before, and after about 2 or 3 songs, there's no one in the room anymore. Everyone's going over to the coffee shop. But I keep going because people they're kind of coming back and forth in and out of the room. But I don't know, 3 or 4 songs in, I realized, oh wait, no, there's no one in the room, and they're not coming back in. Everyone's in the coffee shop and they're staying there. And I soldier on a little longer, but I finally stop and go out and look around, and the place is dead. This was like a Wednesday night, I think, and there was probably less than 10 people in the whole coffee shop. And I talked to the staff, and they're like, "Yeah, it's really dead. You can keep playing if you want. I don't know if it's going to get any better." And I went back. I think I did another 2 songs, but no one was in the room, and I'm thinking, oh wow, okay, I'm literally playing in an empty room. Not figuratively. There's nobody in this room. So I didn't stay. It wasn't worth it. It might have been 30 minutes, maybe only 20. So that was that. But that was that. Now I can say, I joke to myself, okay, well, if I ever make it big, I can talk about the time I played a literally empty room, because I remember a gig I played in Boston where there was. I played it for the sound man and the 2 people playing after me, but at least they clapped a little bit and were kind of into what I was doing. But this was a literally empty room, so bit of a bummer. Anyway, story number 3. We'll jump forward a few more years, and I'm now in Miami, Florida, and recently moved and trying to get work. And I got a gig with a singer to accompany her on piano for a wedding. And we had 1 rehearsal in advance, and she was great. And it was a lot of songs. It was like, I think, about 10 songs, which in my experience is unusual. In weddings, you might play 4 songs in a ceremony, but this was 10, like really elaborate. So anyway, we rehearsed these, and I practiced on my own. So day of the wedding, I got there early, about I think 5 o'clock, and wedding starts at 6. And the guy who parked next to me introduced himself as we're getting out of our car. It's like, "Hey, you here for the wedding?" Like, "Yeah, I'm here." It's like, "Okay, do you know, are they running on time?" And I said, I don't know. I just got here, and actually I don't know the wedding party or anybody. I'm just the piano player. So all I know is I start playing at 6. He's like, okay, it's just, well, I'm the minister, and I've got to be somewhere at 7. So I need to make sure we start on time. And I said, okay, I don't know, man. You have to find the wedding party. I don't know. So anyway, so I go in and I'm ready, and the singer arrives, and guests are arriving. We're getting there. So 6 o'clock rolls around, and we're not getting started. I'm thinking, well, weddings sometimes start late, but the bride isn't there. The groom is there, and the rest of the wedding party, but bride's not there. So we're waiting and waiting. It's 6:15, it's 6:20, 6:30. We're waiting, and the minister is getting really impatient. And I can see him, talking impatiently with the groom and people in the wedding party, we need to get started. So finally, I think it was at 7, we're still not started, and he stands up in front of the audience and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry, but I have to leave. I have somewhere else to be. I'm very sorry. I've got to go." And he walks out straight down the aisle, and I'm looking to the singer like, "Whoa! Never seen this happen. No minister, no wedding." So we're kind of sitting there looking at each other, and everyone's like stunned, like, what is going to happen now? So a few minutes later, he's back. I assume that the groom and the wedding party begged or bribed him back in, and so he's back there on stage, not happy, but there, and you can feel the tension in the room. So we're waiting, and then finally, a little while later, the bride's there, like, okay, let's. He's, all right, great, she's here, let's get started. Oh, nope, her mother isn't there yet. And he literally throws something like, "Ah!" and storms out again, very angry. And once again, everyone's looking around like, "What? No minister, no wedding." And the singer, at 7:30, we're still waiting. He's supposed to start at 6. The singer pulls me aside and says, "Look, James, I only hired you for an hour. We're already 30 minutes over, so you can go if you want." But I said no, because I didn't want to. I figure, well, if it happens, I don't want to leave you on your own without someone to play for you. Plus, I just want to see how this ended, because this was crazy. I've done a lot of weddings and never experienced anything like this. So it's 7:45. We're ready. The bride is there, her mother's there. So the minister very impatiently pulls us aside. All right, we're going to do this. All right, and there's a program. It's like, okay, takes his pencil, puts it, slaps it down. Like, all right, it just starts crossing things out. No. Okay, sing that, do that, done. It's like, all right, here we go. We start playing. It's like, come on, let's go, play it. Like, okay, I don't remember what the piece was I played, but whatever traditional wedding entrance was greatly sped up, and we got them in there. And I remember there was a Ave Maria at some point in the ceremony, and it's the singers like, okay, do a verse. It's like, all right, Ave Maria, let's go. Ave Maria, blah, blah, great, what, done. And then the minister gets up finally to do his, the vows, the big thing. So he stands up, just seething, and goes, "Love is about respect. Respect for other people. We are here for you, and you need to respect us." And he was furious with a capital F, and just starts ripping into the bride and groom. And it was a Haitian wedding, so he, I think unconsciously, starts jumping back and forth between English and Creole. And I don't speak a word of Creole, but you don't have to speak a language to feel emotion. This guy was mad, and he is ripping into them. And I don't remember everything he said, but I will never forget. In English, he says, "I question the future of this marriage." And my jaw kind of drops. I have never heard a minister say that at a wedding. And then it's like, all right, stand up. You love each other, you love him, you got rings, bam, done, you're married, let's go. You got a song, play the song, whatever the song was, done, we're done, we're out, we're married, let's go. And that was it. I think we played half of 3 songs out of 10, and that was it. So pretty nuts. I'll never forget that one. Okay, story number 4. Shortly after that, this is actually 2 stories in one, but shortly after that, had another gig. I was new in Miami, only like a year into living there, and work was tight, so I was taking whatever gigs I could get, and I'd been hired by this guy to play for his party, and as a soloist, I play guitar, I play piano, and I had started doing more vocals. And I tried to be very clear and descriptive in all my online profiles that I do 3 things, but I have separate repertoires for each. But in my experience, a lot of people either didn't bother to read that or just couldn't understand that, and that was the case with this client. And we had a lot of tense back and forth about, like, he was real demanding about the music he wanted, and I was like, well, I do this song on piano, but I don't do it on guitar, and well, that's for this repertoire, and he wasn't getting it, and at one point he was like, I don't think I should hire you, but I wanted the gig. He's like, no, okay. I was trying to appease him. There was this one particular song he wanted that I played instrumentally but didn't sing, and I ended up learning it. But anyway, there's some tense back and forth. He requested, I always invite clients to request things for my song list. He asked for about 20 songs, all ballads, and I practice them a lot. Anyway, day of the gig, my car battery dies. Like I said, money was tight, yes, it's like worst timing. My car battery dies. Thankfully, there was a garage like a block from my apartment, so at least I was able to get the car in there. But yeah, it's the car's like, oh no, this is worst possible timing. So I borrowed my wife's car, which is smaller than mine, but I could still get all my gear into it. When you know it, her car had a flat tire. And I'm just looking like, why all the time? It's the worst timing. I took it frantically to a nearby place to get the tire patched. And then, I crammed all my gear into her very small car. I had to like take a lot of stuff out. So I remember I'm driving to the gig and the tire starts going flat again. The patch didn't work, and I'm driving there. Thankfully, it wasn't that far away. But I'm thinking, oh God, just get me to the gig. I got there, and I start setting up, and I didn't know this at the time. It turned out the guy who hired me was not the host of the party, and it was not his home. And I was kind of anticipating, like, basically doing like quiet background music for what I thought was some kind of like formal event. Well, it turned out it was a young 20-something crowd, and they want to like dance and have energy music. They have that playing over the speakers. And I'm thinking, this isn't that's not what I do. I'm a folk classical person. Anyway, I set up. It takes a while to set up because I'm doing all my gear, my guitar gear, my keyboard. I had several trips back and forth from the car, and I got it all set up. And I remember sitting down like 10 minutes before I'm supposed to start. It was a 3-hour gig, and I remember sitting there just thinking, this sucks. I do not want to be here. This is when I had romantic visions of being a professional musician. This is not what I envisioned. Nothing about this is enjoyable. I'm not getting paid enough. I should have charged more, but I just want to get through this. And I'm thinking, 3 hours, only long 3 hours. And I start playing, and the guy I had prepared what the guy asked for, but it's all ballads. And that's not what this crowd wants to hear. So I'm playing what he's asked for, but it's, I know it's not going well. It's not my crowd. It's not what they want. I'm nervous and just not mentally in it, so I'm not playing well. So I kind of wheezed through like 30 minutes, and the host graciously pulled me aside, like, hey, why don't you take a break? We're gonna turn the other music back on, and I was kind of thankful for that, actually. So, and to their credit, they weren't rude. They were very nice. They could have been mean about it, but they weren't. So I'm just like sitting down, taking a break for 20 minutes, becomes 30, and finally do you want me to get back up and play some more? Like, it's a 3-hour gig. Like, no, you're fine. We're just going to keep the speakers playing. Get some food if you want. So I figure, well, as much as I'd like to relax and eat the good food, I should probably check the car. I go out and the tire is completely flat. So I change it. I figure, well, I got to get out of here. So I changed the tire in my suit. And so I guess if there's a bright side that they didn't want me to keep playing, so it gave me the time to change the tire on the car. Which took a little while, and really it turned out the guy who hired me, all he really wanted was one song, because he was going to make a surprise proposal to his girlfriend, and the one song he wanted me to sing, that was really all that mattered to him. And I did that, and that went fine, so that was good. But yeah, that was not a fun gig. And then when I went to leave, my car was blocked in by like 3 other cars. So remember, I packed up. I want to go, but I had to hang around for another like 30 minutes to wait for other cars to move. Yeah. So okay. Now that about shortly, like maybe 2 weeks after that, I had this other wedding gig, and this is when I kind of got sick of gigs. So I had to learn a song for this wedding, piano. I was playing keyboard, and I got there, and it was some restaurant, but I had to park far away, and it was upstairs on upper level. So I'm carrying my gear up the stairs, and those of you who don't play keyboards may not realize, but like a keyboard is a lot of gear. There's a keyboard itself, which is very heavy. You usually need one trip for that, but you got your stand. The bench, your amp, so it's at least 2 trips and maybe 3. And it's not as bad as drummers. Drummers have it worse than we do, but there's a lot of stairs involved, it can be a lot of trips. So yeah, I do that and get set up, and when the song comes that they had requested, it was pretty challenging. I had practiced a lot on it. And it turned out it was the couple's first dance, and the groom didn't really want to do it. The bride had requested it, but the groom wasn't into it. So they did like maybe 30 seconds of the song, like a verse, and then like, okay, the groom's like, done, we're done. So like all that back and forth and all the practicing I did for 30 seconds. And it was only about an hour-long gig, but driving home, I started calculating, like, oh, okay, you could say I got paid whatever, I don't know, $200 for the hour. I probably should have charged more for that. But then I think, well, but all my setup and breakdown time. I also at the time I lived on a third floor apartment, so there was all those stairs, and my drive time and all the practice time, which was added to a few hours. Like, well, that wasn't worth any of that. And so after those 2 instances, I actually decided I was just going to take a break from gigging. I would rather just teach and not deal with those headaches. So, but I haven't given up on gigging. I still do it, and I still aspire to do it a lot more, just more on my terms. So anyway, thanks for listening to these tales. And if you can relate, feel free to leave a comment. Well, that's all. Thanks a lot.